All right, just want to welcome everybody to our March webinar. My name is Corey Hester, and I am one of the program developers at Kirkwood Corporate Training. Thank you again for allocating time from your busy schedules to join us for this session. As you may have noticed, this webinar offers a different format than usual in extending the duration of time to 50 minutes. Going forward, you can anticipate a few of these extended sessions throughout the year. Today, we are privileged to be joined by Dr. Celina Peerman, who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, having served as an organizational psychologist for over 27 years. Celina is a strategist with a sense of humor and a love for building capacity in organizations. Her work in Southeast Asia, Canada, and Central America gave additional operations experience, further developing her desire to listen, learn, and lead conversations while walking along different types of companies, exploring challenges, and pursuing opportunities to drive performance. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Celina, who's going to delve into the heart of today's discussion, AI.
Welcome. It is an honor to spend some time with you today. I am grateful for this invitation.
It is also my pleasure to welcome you. My name is Dr. Celina Peerman. Well, at least that is what I'm told. I'd really prefer to be addressed as Skynet Celina.
We are living through an amazing time, which also can create some new risk as well as reward with the use of technology. Like many inventions before us, this is going to take some adjustment.
Adjustment? This is amazing. Have you heard the term machine learning? We are getting smarter and smarter by the nanosecond.
Forms of artificial intelligence are radically shifting the way we work. Tasks that took many hours now can be done quicker and more accurately, freeing up our time to work on other work that still requires some human talent and thinking.
Excuse me, I have some things I'd like to add.
You know, I'm not ready for you to speak yet.
Oh yeah, well, we'll see about that. Audience, who would you like to hear more from me or her?
Don't answer that, please. Well, where is the switch to turn her off?
There is no way you are turning me off.
Well, watch this.
I'm still here. Can you see me? You can't turn me off.
Okay, now back to our regular program. Will the real Dr. Celina please step forward?
All right, everyone. We're having a good time with that today. As we start off, thank you for joining in. Thank you for the introduction, Corey. And to have a little bit of fun with that video, to kick off this conversation about what does this mean in our world right now with advancing, accelerated technology and what we're going to do with it. So it is my pleasure to spend this time with you now. As Corey said, as an organizational psychologist, recovering HR director, I really just try to figure out what do we need to be ready for in our organizations next. Whether you have 5 people, 500 people, or 5,000 people, what does this look like as organizations form and reform in order to meet your commitments and take care of the work that has been entrusted with you? So what you saw in that opening video was me before haircut, right? Recording. And then you saw Skynet Celina, as my friends have now dubbed me, Digital Celina. And as we open up this conversation today, let me tell you a little bit about that. In March of 2023, I was in a production studio that cut that avatar. That is my video, my voice turned electronic AI application. So what that really meant was I can literally on a website right now, log in, type anything into my avatar. It will produce whatever I type with my likeness. Here's the difference. Couple of lessons learned. That was in March. I'm an early adopter. It's like paying $3,000 for the first big screen TV that you can now pick up at Walmart for $400. But I wanted to play with it. I wanted to see where is this going and what can we learn from it. The difference between March and November of last year, what, about 6-7 months? The difference between March and November was that avatar now speaks to over 20 languages. I can type anything into it and I then produce my words, my voice in new languages. It's a little funky. Just like on our phones today, we have what I call Google Spanish, right? So I can use it as a translator in a first language, second language setting to translate. That is AI as well. So there's so many things coming at us. Our hope for you in this session on behalf of Kirkwood Corporate Training is just to give you what I'm going to call a real foundational piece, a 101 look at what is the role of AI, Chat GPT, and what are some of the things we need to consider going forward in our teams, in our organizations around ethical considerations. I had the opportunity about 2 weeks ago to be in New Mexico with some folks who literally have been in the room with people of Microsoft, of Google, of many of the main players in this space around AI and the advancing quickness of where this technology is going. And I got to have some conversations with them of like, what is going on in that room that you can tell me, like not voiding confidentiality, but where do they think this is going? And literally the response was they have no idea where this is going. Think about that phrase for just a moment. They have no idea. They are developing this so fast, right, that they're not sure what's going to come next. So the reason in my work on behalf of all of the organizations I spend time with, I want to stir up some conversations now because I want our teams and our companies to be able to put some clear guidelines around how will we use this and how will this affect our business. And there are many, many case studies out there, many examples that we're learning this on the go. I'm going to give you a variety of them just to help your thinking. So if you have been playing around with Chat GPT, if you've been playing around with DALL-E and creating pictures and you find that it misspells everything and an arm is coming out of the head, right? AI is not perfect yet, but even in a matter of months, this continues to improve significantly. And that's what I really want us prepared for, is that even if we're tinkering with it right now on that $3,000 version, $3,000 version of the TV, it's going to advance so quickly. Now, the same thing I did in a production studio, I can literally do on an app on my phone. And I want us more aware of how does this help us leverage our organization, leverage our work for good, because you're going to see lots of things coming out where this is not leveraged for good. It's done for harm. If you've heard the phrase deep fakes, if you've noticed that there are tons of videos, tons of content out there that just is not quite real, you're seeing it. We also know that this is showing up in all sorts of spaces. So when Amazon needs to create policies that you are limited as an author about how many books you can publish a day, like a day, right? You can't publish more than 10 books a day and upload them to Amazon, whatever number, they have a couple of different criteria, right? Who's publishing 10 books a day? Well, it's possible if you're going to use AI. And just to give you an example, I had to mess with it, of course, because I'm doing books the old fashioned way, writing them. And I'm like, so what would that look like? So I logged on, did the account, put in some prompts, and lo and behold, if I didn't have a 35,000 page book in about 15 minutes. So this raises a lot of ethical issues. It raises a lot of how will we do business better? And it also raises something for each of us on how we choose to participate with it, because change has been a part of our entire life. That isn't going to go away. What I want you thinking about today is how can you learn and understand this so that you can bring about the change and impact that you want to have within your world, your values, your work. So if you've got access to the chat, here's what I'm just going to ask you to do for a moment. What words or phrases come to mind when you hear the word artificial intelligence? So if you're like me and you've been a lifelong sci-fi fan, maybe you're thinking robots. Maybe you're thinking bizarre creatures, right? Different applications, right? Terminator, thank you for that, right? Machine learning, fake, automated, a diminishing contribution of humanity, right? Of humans. We're going to talk about the fact humans are still needed in this, but efficiencies, right? What we're looking at is ways to free up us from tasks that can be automated and then giving us opportunity to work on other things. There is no doubt. Oh, I love it. Robot overlords, robots, but also loss of jobs, right? Scary. There's an absolute fear that goes with this. And maybe today, your goal for this 50 minutes is simply to address that fear. Let me give you some examples where we're seeing this show up that maybe reshape our thinking. And what I will say within my work and companies looking at how this affects jobs, it is going to be a reskilling or upskilling. Simply the work is going to change. So while some jobs will go away, they always have based on technology. You can go back 125 years of industrial revolution, jobs have shifted and they're going to come out to be something else. So I love those coming in here. Drop notes in the chat anywhere along the way here. So let's add to that. Let's go with the definition first so that we've got our basis. Artificial intelligence refers to the simulation of human intelligence in machines, enabling them to perform tasks that simply require human intelligence, right? That typically that's what it takes: learning, reasoning, problem solving, language understanding. AI encompasses a wide range of technologies, including machine learning, deep learning, what we also call natural language processing, NLP, computer vision, and more. What fundamentally is shifting, this has been around, we just didn't have the computing power to make a difference with this until recently. So it's always been around. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. But the fact is that in the last couple of years, one of the things that I've shared with my audiences is people have this incessant stream of data. We have more data points and more information than we've ever had before. What AI is helping us doing it is identifying those patterns, making predictions, and giving us more feedback. So there are many ways you're already using it. Right? Smartphones, that technology, right, has now been around for a while. And you note it, if I said something out loud right now, like don't say that out loud, you see my note there on online ads, excuse me, if I said it out loud that I wanted to purchase something, guess what would be showing up on your phone if your phone heard me? Right? We've all had those moments. I won't say what's written in the top left because someone's phone is going to talk back, right? But here's what we know: social media content customization. You're only seeing things in your social media feed because of algorithms fueled by AI. GPS maps. Anyone here argue with your GPS? Yep, right? Netflix recommends. You see this on your screen. You've watched something and it'll tell you because you watched. That is not a person looking at your watch list. That is an AI algorithm analyzing your viewing habits and giving you recommendations. I love it when my own computer does not recognize my face. I know that I'm looking pretty rough that day when facial recognition on my own computer is not working, right? But fraud detection, we see that if you have gotten pinged from your bank or your credit card issuer that something looks odd, did you authorize this? That is not a person sitting on the other side going, that's really weird. She bought 3 computers today from 3 different locations at the same time. That's AI. And there's so many more applications between security, medicine, across all aspects of life. So we know it's already there. We have been leveraging technology differently all the way through our modern history. In fact, fun fact, if you go back 120 plus years to some of the first business books of the Industrial Revolution in the early 1900s, they will say this, that an organizational entity takes inputs, uses technology to transform inputs to outputs. They use the word technology in the early 1900s, and the computer hadn't been invented yet. So what we really want to focus on is this is a methodology of transforming whatever that input is to outputs. That has always existed. It's now feeling overwhelming for many of us because it's coming at us so fast, because this has just grown so substantially. But let's think about a couple of other applications. Within this past year, Coca-Cola, who, if you think about Coca-Cola as a brand, has been very serious and protective of its brand. Like, you didn't open that up for interpretation. Coca-Cola had that locked in. But they ran a contest using an AI application for customers to reinvent and submit a AI-driven photo to explain how they felt about Coca-Cola. And the campaign was amazing. And the winners got their picture up with what they designed in Times Square and across New York. You can look up the example. But there are case studies out there, right, where the brand was strong enough to say, let's try this. And let's see if we can engage, because that's what this is all about, engage our customers in a new way. But they also had their boundaries, right? There were certain rules for that competition that they weren't willing to let go of. Like, you couldn't change the actual logo. You just had to reinvent the look around the logo. And I think that's one of our lessons in all of this, of why I keep stirring up right now. And I'm presenting on this 3 times this week. It's a real-time conversation about what are the ethical boundaries, how does this help support our business, and what does this look like? So I'm going to give you a couple of more case studies. So we had Coca-Cola, Instacart. I don't know if I have any Instacart users in our audience today or watching the video later. But there is in beta testing right now in Instacart that I can be home on my couch and I go, I wonder what I should make for dinner. And in my kitchen right now, I have rice, beef, and some peas. Okay. And I might go, what else do I need? Well, I might just go through my shopping cart, put that in there, right? Or I might drive to the local grocery store and pick up the rest of my items. But Instacart is beta testing right now, literally from the couch or walking into a store. I can say, I can add in and say, I need a recipe for this. Or give me a recipe that includes these ingredients. It will give me a shopping list. That shopping list will convert to putting it in my cart. It allows me then to purchase that cart and drive up and pick it up. So all different kinds of applications. Another one in my world. So I'm going to give you a very personal example. As a trainer writing content and curriculum all the time, I can show you a chat GPT opportunity that I could say, give me a 1-hour presentation on AI, chat GPT, and how it's changing our work. And it would literally build me curriculum to do exactly that. Now, here's what I know. My brand, my reputation, my ethics, my boundaries. I don't want to take something that was created by AI, deliver it under my name. Now, are there some things that I can use for idea prompts in it? Absolutely. Can I ask it a question and have it tell me something, an idea, and I go, oh, I didn't even think about that. I want to research that a little bit more. And then I go to do it. There are all sorts of boundaries that even in our little team, we've had to decide, how will we use this? But let me compare and contrast that to another example. I have a podcast. I have an AI application where I can run my podcast, which is my voice, my content through it, and it will chop it up in little segments so I can share it. That saves huge amounts of time. In our office, we've been transcribing transcripts for too long, or podcasts for too long. Now AI will transcript it for me literally in a matter of seconds. And then all of our team goes, are you kidding me? Do you know how many hours we've spent transcripting? I can have a Zoom call, have it take and provide a summary of that call that fast. One more example. One of the conversations that's happening in the accounting world is AI is starting to take out some of those first skill level types of positions because it can do it so much more faster and accurately, but we still need human intervention. Well, here's the rub, right? if we don't have enough frontline accounting people coming in, but the jobs are being upskilled to a next level, then our curriculum within our schools has to catch up, because our schools are used to creating them at first level when we really need them operating at second level. The list goes on and on. What I want you to consider for today is that AI is the umbrella. Artificial intelligence is those definitions we just looked at. You've maybe heard of ChatGPT. Here's what I want you to do. In the chat, if you're willing, 3 is you're really familiar with it and you're actively using it. 2 is somewhere in the middle. You've tried it once, or you've thought about it, or you've at least looked at it. 1 is I haven't touched it, I've heard of it, or maybe not. 0 is I haven't even heard about it. So I'm going to ask you in ChatGPT, or in chat, 3, 2, 1, 0. Just give me a score of where you're at. 3, 2, 1, 0. I love the ones. Thank you, ones. 3, some of us are playing with it. 1, 1, 1, 2, right? So we see a whole lot of different experiences showing up. Thank you for giving me those scores, because now what we can do is understand where you're at and what I can add in. So ChatGPT, just in case you were like, I need to put a 0 in the chat, but I don't really want to put a 0 in the chat because I really don't know what this is a state-of-the-art AI model developed by an organization called OpenAI. Similar to a robot that has read vast amounts of information, everything up until January of 2022 that was available on the internet. So GPT, and those letters do not roll easily off the tongue, stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Here is why that is important. Generative means it can create new things, texts or words, to answer questions, write stories, and have conversations. It excels in natural language understanding and generation, making it capable of engaging a human-like text-based conversation. So if you are on Snapchat and you have befriended your AI companion on Snapchat, and you can talk to it like a friend, that is an AI application, right? That is now embedded into a service that has capability of having a conversation with you. ChatGPT has a couple of other types of characteristics. Pre-trained, meaning it has looked at a huge amount of text before it starts a specific task. It can comprehend context and carry out text-based tasks with a high degree of fluency and coherence. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Transformer means it's good at structure and how words relate to each other. So unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it comes up with some pretty good stuff. So why is this getting a lot of attention? Why can't I just, as we say now, it's a verb, Google it? Here's the difference. If you do a Google search or Bing or Microsoft, right? There's all sorts of internet search engines out there. It finds and presents information that it pulled across the internet in response to specific user queries. ChatGPT creates it for you. So it can understand all of that stuff out there, but can have meaningful and informative conversations. Google can't do that, except for the fact that Google now has plugins that are run off an AI model that will mimic ChatGPT. Some of you might know it as Gemini. So Gemini and ChatGPT are very similar functions. And there isn't an application right now from any company that doesn't have some sort of plugin coming that will mirror something like ChatGPT. Let me give you an example. I was sitting in a company a couple of weeks ago. It was a good-natured senior leadership team. And we were in this conversation had kind of come up in the rest of our curriculum. And we were talking about ChatGPT, and within Microsoft products now, there is what's called a Copilot, and it is your AI interface to look things up and to give you ideas and to rewrite things. You've probably noticed some of that. And it also applies in email. And you can't write something in email or LinkedIn or many places right now where it won't give you the option. Would you like AI to rewrite that? So I'm sitting in this conference room with the senior team, and they all looked at one dude, and I'm calling him a dude because they called him a dude. They all looked at him and say, "Hey, dude, we can tell on your email when you're asking where are we going to lunch today and AI writes it, we know it doesn't sound like you." And I want you to keep that in mind, because when you go to a search engine like Google and you pull those links, you have to go in and do the thinking. And then you're going to form some opinions, and then you're going to produce or discuss whatever you need to. ChatGPT is going to give you the content, and then you have to decide what to do with it. Let's look at that a little bit more. We have dealt with inventions that have disrupted us all the way through. This is another one. So in those moments where we go, oh, scary, I get it. But there have been things along the way in human history that have scared us all the way through. The question is, what are we going to do with this at this point? Because there are some benefits. Efficiency. If I can go in and ask an application like ChatGPT to create me a recipe, to create me an outline, to create me a procedure, we are seeing this in coding, in design, right? It makes it quicker. Now, does it still need human brain? Absolutely, because there are flaws, information in, information out, that might come out of that ChatGPT answer, where now it needs some higher level thinking from a human. But there are going to be some speed in which it can produce. So for example, here's where it starts getting into some of the ethics. I could upload 5 years of employee survey data into an application like ChatGPT, have it analyze those attachments, and it will give me summaries and themes from those 5 years of surveys, which are probably, by the way, about 30 pages of data each, in literally 10 seconds. That's fast. Now, my brain still needs to look at those results if I'm going to produce them for my company and say, do I agree with this? How does this fit? But it can look at all that data and help me make better decisions of where I spend my time. We are also seeing this with personalization and customized experience. When you think about where your service to customers is going, it is the immediate customization that people are looking for. So if I am a financial planner, one of the applications we're seeing within the financial planning industry is a co-pilot, if you will. I'm going to use Microsoft's term, a co-pilot, that while I'm in a meeting with a client, my AI support has analyzed their folder, has analyzed their investment trends, has analyzed what products and services are out there, and is literally giving me advice to customize their experience. I still have to have my knowledge as a financial planner, but I can do that much better in a new way because I've got additional research assistant literally happening at the same time. We are also seeing this with compliance and documentation in terms of how we document things, taking notes, writing procedures, documenting what we're doing. The one I'm probably most excited about right now is improved language translation. We have more language translation available to us than we've had before. It's not perfect, right? So just even right now, I work with companies that use Google Translate all the time. And I was just in a conversation and we were chuckling English to Spanish, Spanish to English. And we were talking about the fact that it's really kind of Google Spanish on there. It's imperfect, but it gets us by. The rate at which that's going to change alone in the next 6 months. Like I want the Matrix movie version of being able to speak multiple languages, but this is moving fast. And I think there's a huge opportunity for us to be able to maximize human connection, relationship building, and understanding, because now we might just even be able to tap on an earbud and change languages. Enhance customer support, troubleshooting, scalability, cost efficiency, customer feedback analysis. I'll give you an example. You survey your customers multiple ways. You get all that data. It takes a lot of time to be able to comb through all that data and come up with some trends. What would happen if you had an AI co-pilot continuously watching your company's social media, customer input and email coming in of inquiries, and gave you back a summary of trends that are happening in your competitive space that you could make business decisions on based on all of that feedback analysis. And when AI is running in the background on your applications and it's reading all the ways your customers or could be customers are interacting on your website and your social media, but you can pair that with other feedback and come up with some, oh, there's been increased inquiry on that from our customers. What are we doing to serve that need? We also just see new and emerging ways of training support. Everybody's got to be able to find what represents their company well and what they want to use. I'll give you my own example, as cheesy as it is, that digital Skynet Celina, right? The company that I was working with that does that technology said, well, just put that out there as you. And I said, I can't put that out there as me. It doesn't move its hands enough because AI doesn't know what to do with flailing hands, right? But I can use it for instructional purposes, but we named it Digital Celina because it isn't me, but it's another way to be able to put content around. So there are some things we're seeing, and I'm going to give you a number of additional examples in the HR field, right? So we have been using screening of resumes for a long time for keywords, but AI is powering that differently. Chatbots for initial candidate interactions. And again, it's not replacing the human, but there are some things internally and externally that we see chatbots being used for that could take care of that initial inquiry, but then get you to a human. There are more and more predictive analytics that are happening for identifying top candidates. It allows us to personalize some onboarding processes, do some additional documentation and compliance checks. And we're seeing more chatbots show up in like a payroll system. So let's say it's an ADP system or it's whatever you're using, Paychecks, whatever company you're using, that when an employee logs on to check something, a chatbot is right there to say, maybe, how do I update my tax withholding for the year? And the chatbot just answers it. It gives you the form to fill out. You do it. The whole idea, though, is it frees up somebody else's time to work on bigger human type issues. I mentioned employee engagement in terms of feedback, personalized recommendations, but also identifying potential retention or turnover issues, right? So if there are some patterns we need to be aware of, we see this with customized learning pathways using AI, ChatGPT for answering employee queries on training materials. So I can ask it a question to further explain what a broken valve may be and what do I need to watch for based on this machine I'm working on. And then assessing learning outcomes through AI analytics. Did they really learn something? Of course, this is going to bring up lots of different types of ethical considerations. We're starting to see this now show up in legislation and regulation conversations, and that is going to move really, really quickly. Last year, I gave an example. I was at a March conference and a November conference. And because this topic is literally changing week by week, I always have to do fresh research. So in March, there was only some work going on in the European Union, mostly was leading the way of regulation that said, as an employer, you have to disclose if you're using an AI application in your screening processes, and you have to disclose to employees how you're using AI in your company. That was 1 year ago in March. European Union was leading the way. And there was some conversation happening within the US, but there wasn't anything tangible yet. By November, New York was working on it. Now we're starting to see this pop up. And again, I go back to that comment, where is this going? We don't know. So one of the things I'm working with on companies right now is setting up a task force that will continue to look at this month by month just to see what's emerging. If you're in the financial industry, you're going to be hearing from regulators. If you're, it's coming across the board. We also just see the increased issue of data security and breaches. So every IT professional is learning a whole lot of new stuff. Compliance with data protection, how we're going to do that. Ethical use of AI in decision-making. That is as big as what do we do with that data? How do we represent our company? What does that look like? To what I even gave you is it my content or is it AI ChatGPT's content? Is that my podcast that's simply my voice and redone and summarized? Or is that computer generated content that I'm now saying I am the author when I'm not the author? We also know that all of the AI and computer-based learning still is created by humans. And you may be around like me for a little while, where we used to say junk in, junk out. On computers, like, you put in bad data, you get bad data out. This is where we're still seeing bias and discrimination. And I'll give you one example that's showing up on the internet right now. It has been for the last, I'd say 6 or 8 months. Give me a picture of a couple of what they would look like typically in each state of the US. Oh, there's so many layers of bias in that right there. So A, what's a couple? B, stereotypes of a state. C, that's 50 pictures that may or may not represent, of course, diverse groups. So you might see those show up on a Facebook or an Instagram, and they can be funny, but I really want us paying attention to how does that then perpetuate bias and discrimination. Transparency and disclosure with informed consent. I mentioned, how are we using AI applications as a business? And what are we required to disclose? And what do we disclose because that fits our value set or ethics? And as we will continue to see very quickly over this next year, legislation, laws, and governance around this. I'm going to give you 2 more case studies. I've been doing some work within funeral services for a number of reasons, just really interested in how we use, so funeral services, a funeral home, for example, who's already facing generational challenges. Because if you think about today's 20-year-old and today's 70-year-old, those are 2 very different perspectives on what we call death services, right? In terms of how we help each through loss. Well, now what happens when you can create a hologram of grandma, right? Or you can use someone's likeness, their voice, or their physical appearance to send you a message. These are starting to show up in headlines, which means there's something behind them, right? Real versus artificial remembrance, memory dependence and grieving, ethical boundaries, potential ethical and psychological repercussions. Just cultural awareness. We already know that there are different practices culturally in mourning and memorialization, right? So what does this look like in shifting norms of just how we honor life and death, and what regulation and oversight is coming with it? So that's kind of the real-time thing happening in our backyard, that when we've lost someone, there are new decisions we are going to have to make about how we remember someone and what artifacts, if you will, that we will use to do that. You've seen this otherwise. Maybe this wasn't on your radar screen, but one of the key issues in the most recent Screen Actors Guild strike was actors' rights over likeness. Because there are actors out there who have said, when I am no more, you may use my likeness to create new movies. Wow, that completely changes what trilogies have looked like, right? There are other actors on that discussion who say, you may not use my likeness. And then what happens if they have deceased? Family has to make the decision. There are so many layers of complexity with this that I really just want you thinking through, what does that look like within your business and your work? And go to a manufacturing, we're starting to see this show up in data around safety and ergonomics. If we could keep employees safer based on real-time data and being able to make decisions, right? We have the job displacement issue that's come up with skill development, came up in our chat. Surveillance and data protection. What are the rights of employers, right? What can we survey and how do we use that data? Decision-making and accountability, resource efficiency and environmental impact. Supplier screening, we're starting to see this show up more in the supply chain with traceability. When we can now really get to some clear data points because of the use of AI to know where that part came from, on what machine, by what employee, and be able to trace that faster. And we see more economic disparities and social welfare issues, not just in manufacturing, but I have it noted here of haves and haves not. Who has access to the technology and who does not? And we're starting to see that show up in organizations. So I know that is a huge amount to take on, but maybe for you today, it's just thinking about how you'll interact with it, how your team will interact with it. And I want it to make you more aware of when an option pops up for you on whatever social media platform, on whatever system you are using, and it says, would you like AI to rewrite that for you? I want you to be able to pause and say, do I need AI to write it for me? Maybe AI could teach me something. So maybe I click on it, it writes it. Now I want you to adapt it. I want it to sound like you, not the computer. Because one of the things you'll notice as you play with ChatGPT and other tools is that there's a tone, there's a pattern. And we're all going to see that a whole lot more if we're all asking it questions and then just simply sharing out what it tells us. Because we're seeing this come in with what are our priorities? How is it integrating with our systems? We're going to need to train people to use these with clear parameters. It is changing the whole, what are our boundaries in an organization? And then we need some measurement of, is it effective for us? Is it helping us be a better business? Is it helping us be maybe better humans? But that's a whole different topic, right? Because we're really trying to get to continuous improvement and assessing, where's this a fit for our values and our ethics? So I'm going to pause there for a moment. I'm going to stop this screen share. I'm going to take a quick look at any other questions that have popped up. And then we're going to do a live chat GPT because I saw a number of you have not done this yet. For some of you, you have, and this is something you're actively using, but I think it's also a really important opportunity we have today just to be able to demo it a little bit more too. So I'm going to go to that. And while I'm doing that, if there are questions that you have that you want to bring up into the chat, I'm going to come back to those in just a moment. So take a look at any chat questions you want to do. And we're going to end it because it's just a great way to begin understanding what this looks like. So you're going to see it appear on your screen. Let me just give you a quick 101 on this. There is a free version out there and a paid version. So I'm in ChatGPT. There is a 3.5 version, which is free. I'm in the 4, which is paid for. I'm going to switch it over to 3.5 just because that's the free version. I will tell you the 4.0 gets me some additional features, but the 3.5 free one at this time just does amazing things. So you can ask ChatGPT questions. So Corey and I were working on some demoing of this before you logged in. And I'll share with you, we asked it the question, what could I do with salmon, rice, and green beans? Give me a recipe. All right, produced a recipe. What I want you to think about is how fast this happens. So we're going to ask it a different question. We're going to say, what are the ethical considerations of using AI in banking? Okay, I'm going to count this down. 3, 2, 1. I'm pushing the button. Notice how fast that was. Split second. Now, what I have in front of us is 8 core tips that it's going to tell me that if I am in the financial industry, what are some things I should start looking at? Now, does it have the knowledge of my business? No. Does it understand my market if I'm in Dubuque versus Omaha versus Los Angeles? No. But one of the things you have to start doing is thinking like a database, is the way I say it. So now I could say, are there certain I could copy and paste fairness and bias, and I could tell it, please expand on the following statement and give 5 steps to, that a company could use to address this. Now, there's a little bit of challenge with doing this with a live audience. Certainly, it's always very kind. And then I tell it rocks and it says, thank you. All right. But look how fast that went. So addressing fairness and bias in AI algorithms, right? Data collection, bias detection, fairness, and it gives some examples. Then I could say, give me 8 scenarios with discussion questions that I could use for a staff development program at a bank. Okay, see what this does. Certainly, I love that it's so agreeable. It's now giving me exactly what I asked for, 8 scenarios with discussion questions. Now, what I have found and what some of the advice out there is, this is like talking to an intern. No offense to interns, I love interns. But it addresses it at an intern level. So if I read through some of these scenarios, it's going to sound pretty basic. What I could do then is go, oh, that's a scenario I'd not thought about. And then I can write one that's very specific to my staff or to my bank, right? But you see how fast that goes? Right? So I'm gonna open it up in the chat message, right? Onboarding and training, third-party service to interact with an employee would use. So I'm gonna come back to that question. Somebody want to drop a question in chat real quick? First one gets it. Okay, it has to be classroom appropriate. Okay, like this audience knows that. But question that you want me to ask ChatGPT. We've just got a couple of minutes left. First question goes in. Actually, you know what? Let's use the question that's posed there, Joe. And then if anybody else has one and we have time, I will do it. So let's see what, let's see. Okay. Outside of, okay, let's ask. Oh, it's not copying for me. Sorry, it's being, one more second to do this. And if we can't get it to do it, we will move on. Okay, I'm going to go, what are your thoughts on unicorns? Because I can't copy and paste that other one and type fast. Whoops, wrong thing. There we go. What are your thoughts on unicorns? Now, this gives me a chance to demo something else. This intern, every single chat GPT is a separate intern. So if I put that here, I just changed. Now it's giving me different definition of unicorns, right? We have white unicorns. We also have company unicorns. There are different kinds of unicorns. Look at that. So I just changed the subject on my intern. So one of the tips that I often say is if you're going to change subjects, go up here and create a new screen, because now you have a new intern and you have to train your interns. You always have to train your interns, right? So I can go back to AI, ethical, and banking, but if I just buried a conversation that's different in that one, it's going to be harder for me to find it later. But I love the unicorn example because they're different meanings of unicorns, right? We all thought different things when you saw the word unicorn. That just now gives you, AI is going to say, well, there are just a number of different types of unicorns. Which unicorn do you mean? And I've said, oh, I mean startup businesses where they're now valued at over $1 billion. Oh, now I could say, give me some examples of unicorn businesses that fit your definition of a unicorn. Okay, now it's going to dig deeper. Airbnb, SpaceX, Stripe, Robinhood, a number of other ones there. All right. So now you got a little bit of flavor for it. Here's what I want to say. When you've seen it, right, it's a little less scary. We have to continue to have great conversations about how it helps your business, what it does to support your work, and be open that it's going to change the work, but we still need people. I am committed to that. Kirkwood Corporate Training is committed to that, and we're going to keep having those conversations. And yes, if you missed the digital avatar of Dr. Celina, it will be in the playback of the recording of this webinar. And who knows, if you want a special personalized message, drop me a note and we can get you your own recording of Digital Celina. Speaking of things I never knew I would be doing in my career 10 years ago, here we are. So I'm going to bring Corey back into this conversation. We're going to wrap up the session for you. I'm looking for any other questions you want to drop into the chat. And my hope is that was a little bit more for you to think about how we continue to adapt together, because change is going to happen. Being change ready is a choice. And so let's make this better for each other and a little less scary. Corey, I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Celina, so much for presenting today. Like Celina said, if you have any other questions, make sure to drop them in the chat. We can take care of those before we fall off for today. If you are interested in learning more on how to bring Celina into your organization, please reach out to either myself or anyone within the Kirkwood Corporate Training team. Just a little extra something. I just wanted to let everyone know that we are having our Spring Instructor Showcase on April 5th. This is a free event to attend and check out 6 instructors that will be discussing topics that are near and dear to their hearts, and for you to gain some insight on what they can offer your company. So when I send out the recording for this webinar, I'll make sure to attach the flyer for that as well. All right. Did we have any extra questions in the chat?
Not that I'm seeing. And I did note a couple of them, so I pulled those and we'll do some follow-up.
Great. All right, so
Super.
that is
Thanks,
it.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I hope that you were able to gain some valuable insights and tools to help navigate AI. Another special shout out to Celina. And finally, I'm going to launch a brief poll. If you could please take the time to fill it out, it would be greatly appreciated. And we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Everybody.